Welcome to the latest webinar in Caring.com's Digital Marketing Academy. Our session today is about search engine optimization for senior living and senior care organizations. I'm Denise Grob, a marketing director here at Caring.com, and I'm joined by one of my esteemed colleagues, Avril Devine, who I'll introduce in more depth momentarily. And we've already gotten a few questions, so we got a really engaged group. I'm so thrilled to have you here. Before we dive into the presentation, I want to let you know that this is a one-way webcast where only the presenters speak. You can ask questions at any time during the session. We're going to do a Q&A at the end. We've already received our most popular question of every session, and that is, will it be recorded and provided afterward? The answer is yes. We are recording this. You should see a little red dot blinking in the upper left, and we will circulate the slides afterward as well. Starting tomorrow morning, those will be available on our partner blog, and we send it out via email to all registrants. So thank you for that question. The sponsor of today's free webinar is Caring.com. For those of you who are getting to know us, and as a refresher for our partners, our organization was founded by caregivers for caregivers. Our flagship website, Caring.com, was created and launched in 2007 to equip family caregivers to make better decisions, save time and money, and feel less alone and less stressed in providing senior care to their loved ones. Today, millions of people come to our website to research and get referred to senior living communities and home care agencies. In fact, we have one of the most comprehensive senior care directories on the web, and we are the #1 source of senior care reviews online, with about 250,000 consumer reviews posted and thousands added every month. In May 2018, we were acquired by Caring Holdings LLC, a group of investors with over 15 years of digital marketing expertise. This transaction has enabled us to continue and expand our services for family caregivers and older adults and enhance our competitive position in the marketplace. Our featured presenter today is Avril Devine, who is a senior level digital marketing analyst at Caring.com, who helps manage SEO for our entire portfolio of websites. Avril is a skilled internet marketing strategist with over 10 years of experience in online content development, search engine optimization, and pay-per-click campaigns on search engines. She also has expertise with audience targeting and building virtual learning communities. Avril is a graduate of the prestigious USC Annenberg School of Communication and Journalism and holds a master's in communication management. We are so thrilled to have her on our team and excited to have her share some tips with you too. There we go. Here's what Avril's going to cover today. She'll start by explaining what SEO is, why it's important for your business, and some strategy options you have. She'll also share her top 5 tips for businesses in our industry with regard to optimizing their rankings and reach. And as I mentioned, we'll do a Q&A to help get your questions answered. For those who joined late and posting in Slack, yes, or posting in the chat module, yes, we are recording this session and we will circulate the slides. Thank you so much for asking that. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into the presentation. Avril, are you able to speak for us?
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Denise. I really appreciate that introduction. That was very kind. All right, you guys, let's dive on in. So first of all, what is search engine optimization? Essentially, it is the practice of updating or maintaining a website to make it rank higher in relevant Google searches. What does that really mean now? Really, it's a way to make sure that your business can be easily found online by people who are looking for your services. And the first thing to really understand when it comes to SEO is the anatomy of a search engine result page, or SERP, you might hear people in the industry say. So let's take a look at the left-hand side screenshot right here. At the top of the search engine result page, you'll see the pay-per-click ads, and they're clearly designated by ad. Those are what you need to do bidding around specific keywords in order to rank. Following the ad section is the map pack, or the local listings. This is what we consider to be the start of organic results, unpaid results. They're surfaced based on Google's algorithm. Except I should note that local results are given prominence to brick and mortar providers. You actually need to verify your physical address for your Google My Business profile here. And reviews across the web are an important factor in addition to your location for the map pack as well. Below the local listings are the traditional organic web rankings. This tends to give prominence to aggregators, just because user behavior has indicated to Google that most users want to access an easy comparison of various providers in one place. And that's the service that we at Caring.com provide. We've worked hard to make sure that we're getting to that first result under the map pack that you could see here, both at the bottom of the left-hand side and has in the kind of zoom in on these web results on the right-hand side. So I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So my example was assisted living in Charlotte. And I just want to show you that a couple of core components of these web results include the title tag and meta description. The title tag is that dark blue bolded header that's above each listing. And the meta description is the blurb description there that's listed underneath the title. And what's cool about the meta description is that actually it bolds, Google automatically bolds the search terms from the search query that match your meta description. And that's another way to catch the user's eye when they're browsing these search results. So the title and meta, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, both impact the rankings themselves and also drive user clicks. So both the ranking and the click-through rate are important there, and we'll chat in more detail. So with this understanding of what are the main components of the SERP, I want to make sure that you know that the main takeaway here is that for you, there are a few main ways for you to rank on the page 1 of search engine results. And really that's where you're going to get the most eyeballs, right? So you could do a pay-per-click campaign and bid against your competitors and try to get at the top of the page there. You could create a robust Google My Business profile and try to rank in local listings. And again, your reviews and your robust profile are what's going to be some ranking factors there. And you could also be given kind of preferential treatment in regards to a branded search, a search around your specific community name or service offering name. But in order to engage users a bit earlier in the search process, before they might know the name of your particular business, you could partner with a site like Caring, where we are aggregating various providers in the user's location and getting right there in position number 1 for the majority of the time. This is what's going to save you a significant investment in building your own robust SEO strategy. Although, of course, today we're going to give you some takeaways for at least getting started with SEO in addition to working closely with Caring. All right, so the next thing to grasp is about SEO is the main factors in Google's ranking algorithm that determine the order of search engine result appearance. And so this is a pie chart from Moz, which is a kind of industry leader in terms of SEO best practices that details a lot of the different ranking factors that go into Google's algorithm. Clearly, there are many aspects to it. But one thing I want to point out to you is if you look at the dark blue and red sections on the kind of like bottom of the pie chart, those add up to 25% of the total factors, and they both have to do with site content. So you'll definitely hear me prioritize and emphasize site content as really a main component of search engine optimization today. But another main takeaway here is that although it's complex, It pays off when we have made a huge investment of time and resources into understanding these ranking factors. And so today we're going to go ahead and drill down all these various factors into really three main takeaways of like a simpler framework for you to keep in mind moving forward. But again, it's helpful to just partner with Caring because we've put in such a huge investment into it so that you don't have to do it all by yourself. So why SEO? I wanted to take a minute to highlight the impact of Caring's investment in SEO. This right here is a traffic trend that's estimated based on a third-party tool that we use in SEO called SEMrush. Essentially, they take the keywords that your site ranks for and multiply that by the keyword search volume per keyword, and then that creates this estimate of total traffic for your particular domain. And keep in mind that this right here is just for caring.com. It's not even for our entire website portfolio, but even just over the past 2 years, we've more than increased our organic traffic by 5 times. This took an investment of millions of dollars in content and technical expertise, and we are still employing literally a small army to continuously maintain and also pivot our strategy when Google makes its algorithm updates, which actually happen a couple times a year. Over the years, we've also found that the ROI is there, the return on investment is there, because individuals who land on Caring from these organic search results, they have that higher intentionality. And so they're more likely to ultimately move into our partner communities or engage our partner care providers. All right, so now the meat and potatoes. I know what you guys are here for, some tips on SEO strategy. SEO strategy starts with understanding your audience. So how do you start to understand your audience? You look at what is the intent around their search. And so there are 4 main categories of user intent: informational, investigational, transactional, and navigational. And so informational, it essentially means looking for information. This is where the blog style type content might come in handy to attract those informational intent site visits. And so here's an example of the search engine result page for an informational search, such as, what is assisted living? This is a user who doesn't necessarily know what it is exactly that they need yet. And so they're just trying to get basic information about the service, right? And so, for example, what is assisted living? You can see by the search engine result page features itself that Google's trying to give them a quick and easy answer with that feature on the right-hand side. It's also surfacing a nice page here that just gives, a definition of assisted living. And it also brings in that people also ask feature, which is going to give you, related questions on the informational level around what is assisted living. This is another way to try to kind of hack getting onto the first page of results. If you could provide content, and I know someone asked as they were signing up for this webinar about what makes investing in blog content worth it, you have a more likelihood of getting into the first page if you are answering very specific questions, what we call long tail queries, in a really nice, concise, straightforward way, and potentially getting pulled into this quick people also ask answer. And so that's something to look at for formulating sample topics that you could write about on your blog as an industry expert. Next, we have investigational. Investigational is really it's someone who is looking to make more of a comparative understanding of the services that they need. Typically, they're comparing services or even product brands. And so here we have an example of, okay, well, someone might know, all right, I got an idea of what is assisted living. Now, what's the cost of assisted living, maybe versus home care, or what is assisted living versus memory care, something like that, right? So in this example, actually one of our domains, Paying for Senior Care, shows up with calculating the cost of versus home care. And then again, we have some of those informational type of questions, but you can see it also tends to be a bit more comparative in terms of what's the difference, you know, what's better for me, what's the cost, etc. Next, we have transactional. Now, transactional is really the moneymaker here. This is where the majority of users are going to start to drill down with high intent into, okay, I have an understanding of what it is I need, and I know where I need it. Who are the providers that are going to offer it to me? And so, for example, we have here assisted living in Warren County, Virginia. And here you see now, look at how significantly the search engine result page changes. This is another indicator of intent changing. And so front and center, you have the local listings, the map pack. That's really advantageous for you guys as providers. And then right underneath that, you have caring actually showing up twice for best assisted living facilities in Warren County, Virginia, or just learning more about senior living in Warren County, Virginia, based on a recent report that we did. And so this is where we want to have that experience of really capturing the user as quickly as possible and giving them a good experience where they can compare different providers and start to commit to either learning more or actually, you know, starting to schedule tours and everything through our services. And one thing I wanted to highlight here is that I think another person on this call is representing Shenandoah Senior Living. So shout out to you guys. You're doing great showing up in the map pack. And that's what's advantageous about being also partnering with Caring, is that not only are they showing up in the map pack, they're also showing up on the first page that's ranking #1 in the web results as well. So that's getting that brand recognition right off the bat in multiple ways. So then what's the next natural step for a user? They can do that branded search. Let's say, okay, well, I saw Shenandoah Senior Living mentioned a couple times as a popular provider in my area, but I want to learn more. And nowadays, it's less about word of mouth. It's less about, you know, just even what you're reading. And it's more about what are the reviews saying? And Google knows this because, as you can see, the SERP once again changed. So in this kind of a branded search, it's basically what users do when they don't know what your URL is, but they're more likely to do that than try to figure out your URL and enter it in manually. So Shenandoah's got a strong brand presence in that their website is surfacing a couple times, but then Caring's right there underneath them. And what's interesting is that you have very much highlighted is Google's My Business profile for Shenandoah Senior Living here on the right-hand side. And it surfaces the Google reviews right there at the top. If you were to scroll down, you'd also see that it brings in reviews across the web. And then even on the left-hand side in the organic web results themselves, it's bringing in this star rating feature as well. So that's a really strong indication that this is what users are looking for. They're looking to see how are other people talking about your business before they make their final decision. And even if it is that they meet with a financial advisor and they get you get a lead from a user who wants to tour your facility, I would bet your bottom dollar that they're going to also Google you before they show up for that tour. So this is a great way to start to make an impression before you've even shaken someone's hand. So takeaway here, if you want to get, at least for Caring's approach, if you want to get down to that transactional search intent, look at what are the services you offer and what are the service locations that you offer them in, add that together, and that's a transactional keyword phrase to target for your service. And another takeaway is just these are some free keyword research tools that you can use to start to get an understanding of what are users actually literally searching in your service area. And so Google Keywords Planner, Word Tracker, and Moz all offer some free tools where you can basically just enter in a broader category and it'll give you lots of related queries having to do with that category. And you can even sort it by the search volume associated with those queries. But I would say for a smaller site, the smartest thing to do would be to try to look at some of those more specific, what they call long tail queries, so that you can have a more competitive edge at getting in front of folks who are asking, their Siri, for example, like a super long-winded question, like, how much is this living in near me, essentially, right? That's where the market's kind of going. All right, so we promised that we would drill down the very complicated ranking factors into an easy framework for you all to move forward with. And this isn't just for you. This is what I've told clients for years, and this is really how I frame my strategy whenever I approach SEO as well. And so I like to break it down into on-site, off-site, and technical SEO. First, on-site. That basically just means the optimization of your website, right? What's most important about your website? The content, 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 content. I can't say it enough. How relevant is your content to what you want to rank for? How authoritative is and quality is it? And is it unique? If it's not unique, it's not going to rank. Offsite. Offsite basically just means, I like to think of it as offsite SEO is about helping Google understand where you sit within the World Wide Web. If you think about the World Wide Web as a big spider web, and Google sending crawlers through the web like little spiders that follow links from through within one site and also off to the next site that it links to, where within that web is your site sitting? So what is linking to you, and where are you linking, and what mentions your brand, and who are you mentioning as well? And so that helps to sort of get an understanding of in what company do you keep? Are you a reliable source, or do you kind of have seedy surroundings, basically, right? And so that's what helps to build authority. And when it comes to a local business, those business listings are what are the main priority for you in order to build authority. And we'll talk a little bit more about what's important there. From the technical standpoint, it's about your site health, your site quality. And also, no one likes to go to a site where it's taking forever to load and you're hitting pages that are telling you page not found. That's not great. That's not a good experience. And Google knows that. Google can see that. And essentially, if a page doesn't load, it's not going to be able to get crawled and to show up in those search results. So the technical site health is what helps to determine what can be crawled by Google's little spiders, indexed into, it's just like massive index of the web, and categorized using the Google algorithm in order to show up in search. All right, so the SEO strategy that we're going to go over today breaks up further into 5 main tips under the categories that I just talked about. Of course, the emphasis goes on on-site. On-site, remember, content is king. We'll talk more. Also, tighten up those title tags. That's the #1 strategy or the #1 tactic that SEO strategists typically start with. Also, for on-site, make it user-friendly. And if it's user-friendly, odds are it's going to be crawler-friendly as well. And then for off-site, leverage those local listings, especially as a local provider, so that you are more reliable. And then technically, I could spend a whole edition on technical SEO. It would probably get boring. So what I'm going to emphasize is that you want to use Google Search Console to track your performance and get an understanding of how Google sees you. We actually do literally have a whole other webinar on leveraging your local listings, and I'm sure that Denise would be happy to share that with the follow-up here after today as well.
Definitely. Thanks, Avril.
All right, tip #1. Again, content is king. I can't say it enough. So let's drill down. What I want you guys to take away from this is that unique content is what's the most important thing here. Unique content and quality content. And so the example I have here is that is a provider, a senior living provider called Elmcroft of Little Avenue here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I thought they were a great example of, you could see the differences of the profile description on the left-hand side, which is straight from caring.com, versus their own description on the right-hand side, which comes from their site. And you can see that both blurbs are very detailed, very thorough, but it's not the same language. It's still hitting the same coverage of their accommodations, the services that they offer, what makes them different, and their approach, but it's worded completely differently. And so that's really, really crucial, because Google is just not going to rank both if it's duplicate. It just doesn't really see the purpose there, essentially. Also, I know that someone on the call who signed up had asked, how do I stand out from other providers on a caring.com directory? This is part of it. If you provide a robust description that's unique from what they could find just by visiting your site directly, even, that's going to help the user to want to engage with what you're offering and learn more and keep reading more and more and more and viewing all your pictures and reading all your reviews. So that's really important, so that you're both engaging the user, differentiating yourself, and enticing them to submit that form to learn more and get outreach so that they can become a lead. And this is important both for assisted living as much as it is for home care. All right, tip number 2, tighten up those title tags, please. So I have here on the right-hand side example, a little shout out if anyone here is coming from Tennessee, tighten up. And the Tennessee Titans, you would know. All right, so first of all, the main thing to do here, customize the title tag for each page. If your site is somehow too big and you can't customize the title tag for every single page, at least customize the title tag for your target pages. And the way to do that is to incorporate those target keywords that we talked about. Once you've got an understanding of your search intent and you've done some keyword research and you've kind of mapped the keywords to those target pages, incorporate those target keywords. Also, take a note that Google reads left to right just like people do. Google assumes that the information that's top of the page is more important, just like people do. And so keep that in mind as you're optimizing your site and customizing your title tags. Same thing goes for meta descriptions, really, but for the sake of time, let's talk about title tags. So if you look here on the right-hand side, you see that Visiting Angels, which I think is also on this call, did a pretty good job of that. They have, home care, Chattanooga, Tennessee, the first 2 pieces of text that you see. And that perfectly matches the search query home care in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But I see that they also have their brand name mentioned here at the end. That's typically a default setting, but I would encourage you to take a look at maybe even removing that, because visitingangels.com is the first thing that you see right at the top there. So you don't necessarily need to repeat it in the title tag. You could leverage that space to maybe include a call to action, like learn more or contact us today, or compassionate service, something like that sets you apart in the title tag itself to entice those clicks. Another thing to keep in mind is that the recommended length for the title tags is 600 pixels. That could be difficult to eyeball, but essentially that comes down to 60 characters. And a tool that I really love for this is Moz's title tag checker. They can actually check against the 600 pixels for you, and that's going to help you to avoid the little ... trail off effect that you see in the bottom 2 listings here in the search engine result page. And that's just a better experience for the reader, right? So they can easily scan and get a full understanding of what it is that you're offering, so that they can click over right away. Caring.com, of course, is number 1 here, in part because, yes, we do have home care and Chattanooga mentioned in the title tag, which is an exact match. But you can see that we make it a bit more of a sentence, like conversational tone. It's home care services for seniors serving Chattanooga. And so it's a little bit more of like, hitting some variations of that keyword that you could be searching, and also by including the number 16 home care services. This is catering to the fact that often users want to be able to compare their options in one place. And so that's really attractive to be able to say, oh, if I click on this listing, I can see 16 different listings. And Google knows that this is what the users prefer, and that's why the aggregate sites like Caring get put first. Okay, so what happens once the user clicks over to your site? You've enticed them successfully with your title, tag, and meta description, and so they've clicked. What's next? You make it user-friendly. And there's kind of a lot on this slide, but I'm just going to quickly say that this is essentially a breakdown of the user flow. They land on your target landing page, which you, of course, successfully match to intent. And then from there, you want to make it really easy for them to engage with your page. Otherwise, they will, if they don't get the information they're looking for right away, they'll bounce off. And that's a poor indication of being able to actually service or answer the query that they entered into Google search box. And so from there, you want to maybe have a video that they could click to watch once they get to that page. Maybe have a table of contents that they could click down into a certain section that they want to read about, or at least have easy navigational options like related articles, or a nice and easy to navigate, easy to read main menu across the top of your site that they could click through to dig in more throughout your site. And those are called engagement signals, which Google also tracks, and that factors into the algorithm as well. And so if you look at the right, bounce rate, high bounce rate is bad, more pages per session is good, essentially, is how it can drill down. And then from there, are they converting? Do you have an option, an inquiry form on especially your not just your informational, but especially your transactional type landing pages? Do you have at least a newsletter sign up or a contact us type form for them to be able to capture a lead? That's important. That's something to think about. And that's what helps to drill down from that informational level of answering someone's maybe basic question about your industry down into, okay, now we have their contact information and we can follow up with them and actually, schedule a tour, schedule a move-in, schedule a service. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of how we take something from that, from just a web visit with, especially for organic, with that high level intent, and translate that into a high quality lead. Okay, tip number 4. For local listings, the main thing to keep in mind, consistency is key. So the way that Google sees it really is it's about consistency, frequency, and authority. Again, we have a whole webinar on this, but one thing that I stole from that other webinar that's on the top right there is to keep in mind that what you want to really keep consistent is the NAP, your business name, your physical address, and your local phone number. And so I included the Birches at Newton here as a really nice example where you can see on the left-hand side, they have their Google My Business profile that's surfacing when you search their brand name in Google. They have the caring.com directory listing here, and they also have their Facebook profile here. And then all of these different high authority profiles or listings exactly match their brand name and at physical address on their website. So that's like the kind of dark gray one right there. And one thing that I really like as well is that experiences, there's some kind of option to see reviews. So for caring.com, they have 20 reviews, which is pretty solid. And you can see that the 20 reviews on caring.com get brought in to their Google My Business result on the bottom left there. And they also have 14 Google reviews. So again, Google's surfacing the reviews because it knows that that's a major deciding factor for setting a brand apart and dictating user behavior. And then even on their own website, it looks like they've incorporated some kind of plugin where they have 24 reviews listed on their own site as well. So really strong performance here. And again, you can see very consistently 70 Durham Road, Newton, Pennsylvania, exactly formatted the same every single time. That's what's going to add up to build authority. So the main takeaways here are, number one, claim that Google My Business listing, because otherwise, you guys, I even see it's asking me, but do I own this business? So they might not have even claimed this Google My Business listing. It might just be pulling it in automatically. So that's an opportunity for growth right there, is the claim that listing and fill out that profile in more detail. And then, and basically all you have to do is Google My Business, and Google will walk you through how to set it up pretty easily. And then the next is complete your detailed carrying directory profile, because again, we have worked hard to make it a very, very, very high authority site. And you can tell it's high authority because of how well we rank. And so when you have a strong directory listing with carrying.com, it's going to offer a ton of additional verification that you are a quality provider as well. And so if you don't have a carrying directory listing with us, please feel free to contact us at sales@carrying.com. And if you feel like you need to maybe update yours, you need to update your address, or you want to provide a more detailed listing, or you want to ask Denise here about making sure we can try to think about some tactics for adding reviews, please feel free to reach out to us at partnersuccess@carrying.com as well. And thank you for partnering with us. All right, tip number 5 that I'll leave you guys with. Google sees you, but do you see how Google sees your site? The way to do that is to set up Google Search Console. There's a lot that goes into Google Search Console. I'm giving you an example of what the dashboard looks like here. This isn't any of Caring's sites. This is just an old client of mine. But I wanted to give you guys an example so that you could see just the wealth of data that's available in Google Search Console. You can look at how many clicks are coming to your site from Google searches, how many times are people seeing your search engine result page listing in Google. That's what impressions means. And then clicks over impressions equals click-through rate, and also what's your average position in SERP. Google Search Console is a free tool offered by Google. And so, so if you don't already have it set up, make sure that whoever manages your website sets up Google Search Console for you. Again, it's another thing that you could just Google Search Console, and they have a really nice, easy walkthrough of exactly how to set it up based on your level of need, even because some people don't even necessarily want super detailed data, but it'll help you to kind of walk through and get a better understanding. But yeah, it's a hugely awesome tool, because not only do you see your performance on Google as dictated by this chart, but if we were to scroll down and look at where it says queries, we could actually see what are the queries that people are using that end up surfacing your site's listing. And that helps you to have a strategy around optimizing around, wow, maybe I could rank even higher for some of these queries where where Google already sees me as a potential provider of that answer. You can even look at what pages specifically are folks navigating to based on Google search results, etc. And so it's hugely valuable, I would say, because you're getting the data directly from Google. And then from there, if you look at the left-hand side in the dashboard, there's even more than just kind of the end result of the performance. There's also coverage data, and coverage data is part of what I was alluding to in regards to technical SEO and whether your site can surface in search. Coverage data is going to help you to flag if there are any pages or issues with your site that are preventing you from being able to rank. So it'll flag if you have a bunch of pages that are 404ing, or as you might be familiar with it, getting the page not found message. It'll actually flag that for you and provide a whole list that all you have to do is download and then shoot it over to your web manager and say, hey, let's figure this out. How do we maybe redirect these pages to a page that works, or restore this page somehow? That's really beneficial, as well as other things that it'll flag for you as well. Another thing to take a look at under enhancements on the bottom left is Core Web Vitals. that's where more and more folks are becoming impatient. And if your site takes a long time to load, users aren't necessarily going to be very patient with that. And so check out those core web vitals, which are going to help you to see some site health, page load time information, and certain things that might be holding you back from loading your page as quickly as possible, as well as mobile usability. Mobile first is the way it goes, right? We all got our smartphones probably right next to us right now, and Google has actually moved to a mobile first indexing policy, which means that as its crawlers come to your site and index or capture basically all the data that is on each page of your site, they're capturing the mobile version. And so you want to make sure that that mobile version works, that it's surfacing the information correctly, that it's easy to read, it's easy to actually click and engage with, and Google will help you to be able to identify anything that could be getting in the way of that, even things as innocuous as elements too close together, which can make it hard to click with your finger, right? So super valuable information here that I would say is the next step for technical SEO. I could talk about it all day, but basically just for you guys, make sure whoever manages your site at least sets up Google Search Console and grants you access so you can start to dig into some of that exciting performance data. Like if I were this person for this site, I would want to know, why are so many more people searching around my industry in June? You can kind of see there's a big pickup right there. So that's something to look at and potentially build an entire strategy around so that you're really ready to rank as high as possible for those specific search queries that you could filter down to the date range of June. So that's just one example, but there's so much more you could do. But I hope that you guys will come away with this with an understanding that although there's a lot that goes into it, you don't have to stress because Caring's made that investment, and we just want to partner with you guys to make sure that you're getting the brand recognition that you deserve from amazing people who are really in need of your service. So I'm proud to work at Caring for that very reason, because we're really putting you guys in front of the people who need it most when they need it.
Thank you so much, Avril. Before we move on to the general Q&A, there was a question specific to this tool, so I stayed on this slide so we could answer that. You mentioned it, but the person may have missed it. The Google Search Console, did I hear you correctly that this tool is free to website owners?
Correct. It is free. All you have to do is verify that you own the website, and
Perfect.
Google will walk you through it.
Okay, great. That was a lot of information we covered. We got quite a few questions. We want to get through them. There were a couple questions I can go ahead and answer, get out of the way. Our favorite question, can we email a link to the recording after? Yes, everyone participating today will be getting a link to the recording and the slides tomorrow morning. So thank you for that question. And then there was also a question about contacting our team about their listing and whether or not there was a phone number. Yes, we do have phone numbers for both Partner Success as well as our directory listing setup folks. So I will outreach directly to this individual, make sure they get the right phone number depending on their specific account. I'm also going to be sharing my phone number at the end that can be used for reviews follow-up, and also I can connect you to others on our team. So thank you for that individual as well. And let's dive into the SEO specific questions. For one of your slides, Avril, you talked about how the website experience for the consumer can both send an engagement signal to Google and help them with conversion or monetization. This individual was wondering, you talked about an inquiry form or a newsletter sign up as conversion tools. Does a phone call link also qualify as an effective monetization tactic, and does that help with Google search engine results at all?
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. The phone number listed on your page would help with more of the local listing verification of the NAP. But if it is a phone call click, then a click would help, would be a form of an engagement on your page. Google wouldn't necessarily equate that with a form fill, but they are both types of engagement, and it's a way to see that the user, instead of just navigating away from your site, took some kind of action when they got to your site. So both of those things are valid engagement signals. It's just that they're different kind of, basically, right? It's a click into the submit button of a form or a click onto go ahead and call. But really, the only user that's going to click to call is a mobile user. So if you're concerned about that being the only way to move from viewing your page to creating a conversion, then I would make sure that my mobile experience is really tight, and then also make sure that that all of your phone numbers are formatted in a click to call format, instead of just listing those phone numbers where you have to manually enter it in.
Great, thank you. You also talked about content being so important, and one way to add content to a person's website is their blog. This individual is asking for their blog posts. How long do you recommend they be for good SEO?
Uh, yeah, that's that's in continuous debate, I'd say, but the general rule of thumb is about 300 words. It kind of depends on the topic. What I'll say is that the most important thing is to make sure that you're answering the question as quickly as possible. And one tip is to actually rephrase the question in your answer in the first sentence of your page. And that can help to increase your odds that you'll get pulled into that people also ask quick answer, or answer box feature that Google is now surfacing so often.
Great, thank you. Another individual is asking your expert opinion on whether to use a term, this is a keyword question, whether to use a keyword like assisted living or if they should instead use senior living or both.
And I would even say this applies to both the blog question and this question. Take a look at what Google is already surfacing. Better ways to answer this is even just beyond general rules of thumb. Look at what Google sees as high quality in your industry specifically, and try to mimic that as much as possible. So if you see for a certain type of question that Google is preferring long answers, maybe it's a complex issue, then that could be what is the best way to go. If you're seeing that Google is preferring quick and dirty answers that are catering maybe more to like voice search, then that's the way to go. And then same thing applies with keyword queries. One great way to get an idea of the best keyword queries to target is to just start Googling and see what other similar queries start to come up, or the people also ask starts to come up, or even as you start to enter in something like assisted living or home care, see what are the suggested search queries that start to come up in the autofill feature. But again, you could always go back to using those keyword search tools that I mentioned up above, and Google's keyword planner is one of those free tools. So I like to use that one because it's pretty much straight from the source, and all you have to do is enter in a topic or even a few of some of the sample keywords that you have in mind, and then it'll give you a robust list of so many variations of that. And if you think that you can answer those questions well, then go for it. That's just what I like to do. So it basically comes down to doing the research and also getting an idea of the competitive market and what's working.
Great, thank you, Avril. We have a question about, this is another content question, and this is related to their business listings on sites like caring.com. You had talked about making sure to differentiate and not duplicate content.
Mm-hmm.
And some businesses in senior living and senior care have multiple locations. So this individual is asking if There are multiple locations under same ownership. Should they have different text content for each location? Is it okay to have any similar content on those pages?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. I think about a lot as well. Uh, it's about making it just differentiated enough. I mean, Google understands that even for branding reasons, you want to be consistent with certain phrases, right? And so even if you do have maybe one main way that you talk about your community, you could do something like differentiate each of your specific locations with a location focused features section that expands upon that like one standard blurb. So you could have like, okay, you know, this is our standard blurb, but then okay, but this is what sets apart this specific location. Maybe it has special amenities, or even if it's just like a description of the town and the surroundings, and maybe the types of activities or excursions that your your community members like to enjoy in that specific area. That's some ways to set it apart so that it's not just seen as completely duplicated content. Another way to approach it would be to try to just even tweak the phrasing of that main blurb. If you really only do have like one main blurb that you use, um, there are even some tools that you could Google around that have like automated rephrasers that high schoolers are probably using around the globe unfairly. But you know, for professionally, it's a great way to be able to get some ideas for different ways to maybe rephrase the same blurb on different pages. But again, I would suggest the better way would be to just try to find something that could set each page apart in terms of the information offered. And we do that on Caring. That I mean, we have so many geo pages, but of course we always have to start with what is assisted living. But we start with that, but then we also include some data at the top of, or a blurb with some data at the top of every assisted living geo page, meaning like a city or state page that has some different stats on, you know, on that city itself, or assisted living um, uh, and senior living ratings or qualities of life in that city itself as well, and that helps to differentiate all the different pages as well. And this also kind of relates to the question about keywords. Think about how you can use a variety of different ways to refer to the same thing, like saying assisted living, senior living, you know, senior communities, retirement communities, and use kind of a variety in your headers, but so that you are able to capture some of the different related keywords that the users might be using. And you can incorporate that variety into the language as well, because keyword frequency is another factor that goes into your content. Try not to do it too much, because you don't want to, what they say, like keyword like pack or stack. I forget what they say, like, but like pack it in with keywords where it doesn't flow, it doesn't sound natural. And also make sure that you're keeping an eye on targeting your pages so that you're still getting a solid amount of keyword frequency for your main target keyword. But if you want to throw in some variations in there as well, that's always a good thing, because it can help you to rank for a broader range of keywords and also be seen as providing you know, non-duplicative content.
Okay, great. And we have time for just a couple more questions. And we will, anyone who we didn't get to afterward, we will get back to you. We'll follow up with you directly to get your question answered. But here's a question, Avril, and there may be a tool that you know about that you could suggest for this person, but they're wondering if there's a way to update their Google My Business with new search words. So refresh the content of the search words for their Google My Business page.
Yeah, your Google My Business profile, once you claim it, is fairly customizable. I know that Google kind of limits you in terms of the one main, I think it's called like service category for your profile. But then beyond that, there is an option to enter in just like keywords, or I think it's like service categories, something like that. It's not in front of me right now. I'd be happy to follow up. But essentially, if you click around in your Google My Business profile, there is an option to enter in multiple like target keyword phrases that are relevant to your services. So that is an option. And then you also can put in a custom description of your business in Google My Business. I think it's just called like the about section, or intro, something like that. And so in that description, you want to make sure it has some keywords worked in as well, if possible. Yeah. So beyond that, I would say you could try to play around with your title or like the name of your business by putting in putting in the keyword phrase like home care provider, or assisted living community in there. But again, I'd be a little bit cautious about that, because you want to make sure that your brand name is very consistent across all listings.
Thank you. And for those of you senior living communities on the call who are partnered with Caring, our partner portal tool enables you to go in and update the description about your business as often as you wish. So that's another way. Avril showed you how to have robust content on your Caring profile. That's a way for you to do that. And then those of you that are home care agencies, you have a dedicated account manager who can help you with those types of updates. We only have a few more minutes, and I want to make sure we summarize. We covered a lot of great information, so I appreciate all the questions. We will follow up with individuals who we didn't get to their question. Just in the interest of time, I want to make sure we summarize the key points. There was so much information covered here. And basically, let's put it into, let's tie a neat little bow on it, okay? Let's summarize for you. Search results and your business rankings and search engine results pages, or SERPs as Avril referred to them, it's going to vary depending on the user's search keywords and location, as well as what the search engine determines is the best matched for the presumed intent of the user. Search engines prioritize the results they deem to have the best content and best user-friendly websites matched to the consumer's query. You need to ensure that your online profiles on sites like Caring and your own website are consistent in how you present your business name and address, not have duplicative content, and that you have lots of highly relevant, unique content for the types of consumers and searches you're targeting for your conversion funnel. And like great content, online reviews are prioritized in search results and help you attract and convert prospective customers. If you don't have the resources, staffing, or expertise to manage a robust and well-monitored search engine optimization program for your business, you can partner with sites like Caring. These are authoritative sites that are already investing millions in SEO and their website's content, and we're already succeeding at ranking and serving consumers online. So you attach yourself to sites like ours, which is also called Barnacle Strategy. This can be more affordable to help your business get found online by the people needing your services, as another strategy for you. All right, I really appreciate everyone attending our session today. Avril, before I close with the contact information and the survey info, is there anything else I missed in my summary that you think is important to call out for SEO for our participants today?
No, I love that summary. Thank you so much, Denise, and thank you everyone for joining. This is my first time doing one of Caring's webinars like these, and I appreciate y'all bearing with me and asking such great questions. So thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Avril. We really appreciated you sharing your tips with everyone. We hope the senior living communities and home care agencies on our call enjoyed the information, found it helpful. We're going to prompt you with a survey when I close the session. We want to hear what you love most, what you suggest for next time. We also welcome your request for future topics that we cover in the Digital Marketing Academy. We really look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. Take care for now.